Moment from the issue of the Prime Minister and your service there. One of the things that struck me as you spoke was the overall need to look at the country as a whole and where we're going.
Yes.
What do you see as the issues going forward? What should we be looking for in leadership?
Well, first of all, we need leaders that are responsible. Okay? Anybody who is reckless, anybody who is unreasonable, anybody who is irresponsible cannot make a good leader. That's number one. Number two, we need an honest leader. An honest leader. A leader that we can trust. Now, you can only trust someone who is truthful. You can only trust someone who, when they promise you A, they deliver A. They don't come up with B or C or Q or tell you that they did not give the promise. Raila is like that. He has been in power, and I will always come back to him. He's running for president. He's been in power now for 5 years. All right? Yet he tells us that he could not deliver because it was a coalition government. So for 5 years, he's telling us he could not deliver. When you saw the presidential debates, and he was asked about Migingo, and what he did to get back Migingo to Kenya, which has now been forcefully occupied by Uganda, he called it a barren rock. Yet his own people, the Luo, are fishing there, live there, they are harassed, they are intimidated, some of them are even taken to Uganda, and he calls it, you know why? Because he's trading with Museveni. Museveni is now his trading partner on Lake Albert Oil. Raila is a tycoon in oil trade, and Museveni is in the same business. So between his personal business interest and the national interest, he would rather go with his personal interest. That's what we saw. So what I'm saying is that those are some of the things that we must look into leadership. Then, of course, discipline. Like Peter Kenneth has good traits as somebody who is focused and disciplined. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing for a leader. Then we have to look for leaders that are visionary. A leader who can see far. And a leader who can tell us who their visions, what their visions are, so that we can interrogate those visions and we can try to compel them to implement those visions. Then we need a leader who is governable. For example, if you have a team, because leadership is about working collegially in a team. So you have a memorandum, or you have a platform, a policy platform, which has been designed, conceived, and then drafted by your policy advisors and other people that are working with you, technocrats, and also informed by the needs of the country. You need to be able to stay on that policy platform. You cannot veer off. And at every roadside, you make declarations that contradict what is in your vision. So these are the things we should look for in leaders. And then the last one, somebody who cannot abuse their power. Cannot abuse their power to turn this country into a dictatorship. Cannot abuse their power to turn this country into a country which is only controlled by one ethnic group. Cannot abuse their power to elevate their relatives like Raila was doing. The whole of Nyanza, he was trying to impose his relatives, even in elective positions. His sister was supposed to be a governor. His brother was supposed to be a governor. His cousin is supposed to be an MP. I mean, this is leadership that we cannot accept. And then a leader, finally, that is just using his position of power and influence to loot the coffers of the state, our own money, which is what these people, many of them, have been doing. So I have looked at both the Cod Alliance, the Discord Alliance, I call them, Cordless Alliance, and the Jubilee Alliance, and I've supported Uhuru based on facts. People ask me why. I told them, look, I put a balance sheet. I put Jubilee on one side. I put Cod on one side. I weighed them. I listed who are the leading people in Cordless. I listed Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula, Njenga, Maina Njenga, Jirongo, Chris Okemo, Timama, Kosgei, Dalmas Otieno. I found they were all rotten. I looked at the Jubilee side. Really, the only thing you can say about Uhuru Kenyatta is that he's the son of Jomo Kenyatta. So, I mean, is that a crime? And that is a Kikuyu. Is that a crime? Is it a crime to be a Kikuyu? Did Uhuru decide to be a Kikuyu? Did Uhuru decide to be to have inherited his father's wealth? When his father was alive, they could have dealt with that issue. Even now, they could still have dealt with that issue. The issue of land, Orengo is the Minister of Land. He's under Raila. They did not deal with that. So I said, when I weighed them, I found rot more on the cordless side than on the Jubilee side. And I said, because these are the only two horses with eyesight to try to go through the desert storm, which I'm facing, I'll ride a horse that can go through, not a blind one like Raila.
Despite saying there's a respectable man in Peter Kenneth and so on and so forth.
You see, the fact is, I told even during my launch, that all these guys are my friends. Kiapi is a good friend of mine. I've known him for over 20 years. He's a decent man. He's a hardworking man. He's a man who brought himself up from poverty to where he is. Look at Peter Kenneth, the same. And has done a commendable job in Gatanga. Muite is an excellent lawyer, a good friend of mine. But they cannot win. And right now, if I supported any of them, and then we are stuck with Raila for another 5 years, what do you think this country will become?
Because you have the numbers to push that.
I have more than my vote because I can also speak.
Very, very quickly before we're coming to the top of the hour, we asked two questions. You are to run for governor.
Yes.
What happened with that? And the state of your security?
I changed my mind after looking at the situation. You know, any man, any woman who is sensible would look at their environment and examine it thoroughly and say, where would I make the best contribution? And is it possible that I would be able to succeed here or not? And if you find that you're having doubts, if you find that the circumstances are not favorable, you have to be humble enough to say, this may not be the time. So I decided it was not the time, and I decided not to proceed. Of course, the media is saying that I was not cleared. I did not even submit my application to the Electoral Commission. So that's what is happening. I don't discuss my security in public, and I think you should understand. Yes.
Now, you've got a new book out, obviously, Kidneys for the King. Where can this book be found?
The book can be found at Bandari Plaza, a company called Books Parlor. Bandari Plaza, shop number 1, Woodville Grove in Westlands. The telephone is 0712 940 120. 0712 940 120. So it's Books Parlor, Bandari Plaza, shop number 1, Woodville Grove.
Mr. Miguna, thank you so much for coming in this morning and for interviewing with us. It's always very interesting to listen to you. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Coming up next is the news as at 8 o'clock with Laura Walubengo. Good morning.